Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank in particular the moderators, Mark Plott, Mark Potochnik, Jim Whitehead. Thanks everybody for participating. Got a live chat here. This is Warren Redlick Sunday Live. We're going to talk about Tesla. Pretty much loaded for bear on this. Really quick, if you support me on the Locals platform on Patreon, YouTube channel member, or Twitter subscriber, you get a chance to submit questions or comments before the chat, before the video starts. LJC Bunky on the Locals platform said, Cybertruck reveal will be a great lead into Q2 earnings report on the 19th. Oddly, the first thing we're going to talk about is Cybertruck. And on the Locals platform, warrenredlick.locals.com, I'll be doing another live stream after this talking political stuff. If you don't want to hear my political stuff, then you don't want to do that. So, Tesla tweeted yesterday, I think it was late in the night or early in the morning, first Cybertruck built at Giga Texas. Here's a bigger picture of it, and I'm going to make it bigger and block out my own face for a second, just so you can see. And most of you have probably already seen it, but you can see this Cybertruck in there. A whole bunch of happy employees, excited employees, happy to have participated in building the first Cybertruck. And one thing, there was a leak a day or so before that, maybe 2 days before that, of what the body in white looks like. So I'm going to I had this question, will the steel exterior still play a structural role? And also, it looks like there's no useful pass-through, so let me make this bigger. You can see here in the back part of the vehicle, there seems to be a wall. One of the questions that those of us who are like Tesla junkies have is, can I sleep in the back and still have access to the main compartment? And it doesn't look like any significant pass-through. And then, will the air conditioning still get through to the bed so that you can sleep in the bed and have air conditioning? It doesn't look like it. Maybe they did something else to make it work. And then you have this structure. You have this structure here. You have the castings. Okay, we knew about the castings. Then you have this structure here. So what's the structural role for the exterior panels on Cybertruck? It doesn't seem like this is really an exoskeleton. Corey from Monroe & Associates, Corey Steuben, suggested this wasn't really a structural, an exoskeleton design. He basically called it like a larger Model Y design, which Model Y is great, but there was supposed to be this massive weight benefit and structural benefit and other advantages to having the stainless steel exoskeleton, and it looks like that's not happening. But hopefully when Tesla tells us more about this, we'll know more about it. Right now, we don't know enough. So I just wanted to cover that. So Cybertruck, this is, for those of us who are Tesla investors, one of the exciting things is the fact that Cybertruck is actually in production, the fact that we're probably going to start seeing Cybertrucks delivered this year, 2 or 3 months from now, is a very positive sign. And it's likely the stock is going to rise on Monday. That seems like a reasonable guess that the stock will rise on Monday. So cats. So one of the questions that I think is coming on. So what we have coming is the earnings report is, I think it's Wednesday. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. Today is Sunday. And leading into the earnings report, we now have this great news about Cybertruck. We've had some other good news. I think China deliveries were higher. If you follow Rob Maurer's channel, Tesla Daily, it seems like delivery numbers were higher. We have delivery numbers, but it just seems like a lot of things were doing better than expected. So there may be some better numbers. Wall Street's earnings estimates are fairly low. I don't really worry about that, but I asked this question on my YouTube channel in the community page. What will be the most important number in the Tesla Q2 report? Please comment with others. And 55% of you, of those who voted, was over 1,000 people voted, chose auto gross margin. That is not my opinion. I disagree with you. I think the important numbers are storage deployed and energy revenue. And we're going to talk about that right now. I just want you to see this. I did a poll on Twitter. What will energy generation and storage revenue for Q1 be? In the previous quarter, which I'll show you in a minute, it was 1.53 billion. And so 12% said between 1.5 and 1.75 billion. The largest answer was 1.76 to 1.99 billion, which is roughly where Wall Street analysts are. That's where Troy Teslike, I think, is. I think it's going to be over 2 billion. I'm not sure it's going to be over 2.25 billion, but we're going to dive into that. So let's look here. I don't know how readable this is for you guys, but let me make it more readable for myself while I'm at it. So this is the financial summary from the Q1 earnings report. And this line here is energy generation and storage revenue. And this line down here is storage deployed. And you'll see that storage deployed is growing at a very high rate. Look at year on year. You can look at storage growth. And what you see is, excuse me, I find it annoying. I can't see what I'm looking at. What you see is that energy generation and storage revenue has been growing 148% year on year. In other words, Q1 2023, let me pop this back up. Q1 2023, 1529 versus Q1 22, 616, that was 148% growth. But energy storage and revenue, storage deployed down here was nearly 4 gigawatt hours versus 846 megawatt hours in Q1 of 2022, growing at a much faster rate of 360%. What we've seen is energy generation and storage revenue has been increasing relatively flat, while storage deployed has been growing really fast. And, solar deployed, the next row here is solar deployed, has not been growing that much at all, 40%. So what's happening is storage deployed is becoming a much bigger chunk of energy generation and storage revenue because energy generation is not growing and storage deployed are not growing fast, and storage deployed is growing fast. I mean, really, the 67 for Q1 2023 storage deployed was lower than the previous 3 quarters. Better than Q1 2022, but lower than the previous 3 quarters. That's just not a lot of growth. But the growth in storage deployed is insane. So here's the big thing. You see this number here. It's about 4 gigawatt hours. Tesla sells a mega pack for about $2 million for a 4 megawatt hour pack. They sell a Powerwall for about, I'll call it $8,000 on average. It's probably $10,000 on average for a 13.5 kilowatt hour pack. That means that the dollars in revenue per gigawatt hour sold is about $500 million. Which means that this number should translate to nearly $2 billion in just storage revenue. And what we see is this doesn't match, right? Why doesn't this match? Because I'm guessing this doesn't match here. I'm guessing that energy storage revenue lags storage deployed, that they get paid for it later. You can see, maybe this is mapping diagonally. So we should see a bigger jump the next quarter. At some point, this storage revenue has to start accelerating. It can't grow at 148% year on year if storage deployed is growing at 360% a year. At some point, this storage revenue, the energy generation and storage revenue, has to start accelerating. So I'm predicting that from 1.5 billion, we're going to see a jump to over 2 billion. I don't think we're going to get to 2.3 billion or whatever, but we should be over 2 billion. And this is significantly higher than Wall Street estimates. That's a big number I wanted you guys to see. Let me look at the Q&A for a second here, the chat. Elon could IPO Starlink to raise cash for Twitter. Oh, they're not doing it for that. They're not doing that at all. They don't need cash for Twitter. Tesla charges $10,000 a year for Megapack maintenance. I appreciate that Tesla will get some ongoing revenue from Megapack, but it's a relatively small number compared to the actual Megapack revenue. If you're going to sell a Megapack for $2 million and you get $10,000 a year for 25 years, that's $250,000. That's a small share of the revenue generated by just selling the pack. Dominic says they should build homes so they can mass produce solar instead of customizing solar to match different design roofs. I don't think they want to get into the home business, and they are partnering with some builders, but I think they've just decided that solar isn't just going to be I think there's a question at some point, will they start ramping solar, and that just hasn't happened yet. Is Texas building a Megapack facility? Not yet. Shanghai is next, and we think there will be more mega factories for Megapack, but we don't know when. Guess how much the lithium refinery will make in revenue in 2025 with a new process? I don't think the lithium refinery will make any revenue at all. It's going to sell. It's going to not sell. It's going to, the lithium is going to be used by Tesla, so there won't be any revenue at all for it. It might account for it. Yeah. And by the way, t-shirts at elonbits.com. This is the most popular shirt on elonbits.com. stainless steel water bottles on elonbits.com. And we have a new shirt. We have a new shirt for those who are super fans. Project Highland, that other is not real. This is the new shirt. It's only in black, I think. Requested by a fan and friend. So that's also available on elonbits.com. Bill T asks, which batteries does Cybertruck use? It uses 4680 cells. There's a big waiting list to buy mega packs because the Autopilot software makes them. I think the return on investment for a mega pack is in the ballpark of 4 or 5 years. I don't think they make. Jim Whitehead in the chat is saying that the return on investment is under 2 years. I don't think that's true. I think it's more like 4 or 5 years, but 4 or 5 year return on investment is fantastic in the energy business. Mark Plot says megapacks are made in Buffalo, New York, and in Lathrop, California. I'm not sure they still make megapacks in Buffalo. They make megapacks in Lathrop, and they're building a factory in Shanghai. I like Ellie's wrap color. I don't follow Ellie, so I try not to. Look, just bluntly, I try not to follow attractive women on social media. I think it's a distraction for me. I'm not saying that's wrong for them to be attractive or whatever, if other guys want to follow them, but for me, it's just a massive distraction. I think she's a great journalist and she does a great job. It's just if they look too good, I can't focus. I'm male. I've got testosterone. It's a problem. What's Project Highland? Project Highland is a fantasy that Model 3 is being redesigned. Tim Manley says Corey is not a structural engineer. He's a car junkie who spent a lot of time under muscle cars as a kid. I don't know about that. I will be talking about XAI later. Dolphin, thank you for asking. Well, so that Jim, I agree that in Australia the return on investment in Megapack might be faster, but Australia is a small market and there's a lot of big markets where I don't think the return on investment is that fast. Just looking here. What are the margins on storage? I think the margins on storage have been about 10%, but I expect them to increase as the factory ramps. Long term, I expect the margins on Megapacks to be 25% or more. But I don't think we'll hit that in Q2. I don't think it's 10,000 megapacks annually. It's is it 40 gigawatt? Yeah, it is 10,000 megapacks annually. 40 gigawatt hours from Lathrop, and then 40 gigawatt hours more coming from Shanghai soon. And my bet is Shanghai outperforms Lathrop. Okay. I don't figure out auto gross margin. I'm going to guess it's in the ballpark of 20%, and I don't think it matters. I do have Benadryl, but I don't think it's good to take Benadryl before I start live streaming. All right. So let me go back to what I got here. This is the other thing that I think is going to be really important in the earnings report. We get a slide deck. This is from page 7 of the slide deck. And this is where Tesla tells us what they're producing, what vehicles they're producing, where they're producing them, and what the production capacity is at those locations. So this is from Q1. Now, what we know is that the robo-taxi vehicle should change to Giga Mexico. And Cybertruck should change to production. I don't think robo-taxi will change from in development to tooling because they haven't built the factories yet. Semi will probably still say pilot production. It may kick back to development. I'm not sure. Roadster is going to stay in development, I think, because I don't think there's been any sign of them getting ready to build Roadster. But you can say it's always possible that capacity numbers will change. Will the capacity number for Model Y in Texas go up? Will the capacity number for Model Y in Berlin go up? These numbers might go up. Shanghai's probably not going to go up, but we all know Shanghai actually has a capacity of 1 million units. I don't think we're going to see changes, but this just gives you an indication of how effective they are at producing vehicles. I think that battery production by 2030 will allow 20 million Teslas to be built. Yes. Okay. And I see questions about 10 million in 2026, so let's do that. I did a post on the Daily Lie. I don't think I did this on YouTube. I expect there's a lot of people forecasting different paths for Tesla growth, and I made a couple of videos about this, and I just want to follow up on that. I think Tesla growth through 2024, vehicle growth will remain below 50% because the real surge is going to come when the Gen 3 factories get going. So Cybertruck will ramp through 2024, probably won't ramp that much. Model Y is starting to get close to what I think is its peak for production. I don't think Model 3 is growing. Model S and X are not growing. So I don't see a lot of vehicle growth, production growth this year and even next year. And so I did this rough ballpark that the next gen factories, plural, will start ramping in 2024. We will see a Giga Mexico factory. We will, it sounds like, I'm fairly confident of this, about as reliable as a source you can get, although it was an offhand remark, that they're working on production of the next generation vehicle factory. They're working on building the design of the next generation vehicle factory in Texas. So you're going to see a next gen vehicle factory in Mexico. You're going to see a next gen vehicle factory in Texas. It seems likely that we'll see a next gen vehicle factory in Shanghai. And it seems likely that we know there's extra space in Berlin for more factory to be built. We know they've started clearing space for something to be built. So it seems likely that we're going to see a next gen vehicle factory in Berlin. And it probably won't be as high volume as the other three. So I came up with rough numbers that we would see relatively slow growth. It's still pretty good growth for a large company of 2.6 million vehicles in 2024. Assuming we hit 1.9 million in 2023, I think we got a good shot of that. Not sure we'll hit 2 million, but even if we hit 2 million, I'm putting 2024 at 2.6 million vehicles produced. And 2025, you start ramping the next generation vehicle factories, which should be completed. At least some of them should be completed in 2024. Depending on how fast they build them. They haven't started building Giga Mexico yet, but good signs they're going to start building Giga Mexico soon. Whenever they start building Giga Shanghai, we know that'll go fast. Whenever they start building Giga Texas, likely to go fast. Berlin, likely to go slower. And then 2026, I think we're looking at 10 million. So we're looking at 5 million vehicles in 2025 with about 3 million of Model Y, Model 3, and assorted other vehicles, Cybertruck. And then in 2026, we hit 10 million. We hit our stride. And my ballpark is that Texas will be producing 3 million vehicles in 2026. Shanghai will be producing 3 million vehicles in 2026. Mexico will produce 2 million vehicles in 2026. That's fully ramped Giga Mexico. And Fremont will produce about 800,000. So I threw that out there. We got some comments. Elon fanboy was thinking 10 million vehicles in 2027. I tend to be optimistic. If it gets pushed back to 2027, I'm not going to cry. Robert says Tesla should take off in 2025. So much is ramping up now through 2024. FSD should be wrapped up. That's the other thing. I am confident that FSD is going to be taken to another level up, and I don't mean the Society of Automotive Engineers level, but will reach a level where demand for FSD will rise, and that will increase demand for Tesla cars. I think we're going to see that at the end of this year, sometime next year. Because next year's 2024, so by 2025, it seems likely that that's going to be solved, and that's going to be a big driver of demand for Tesla. Peter asked how many of that 10 million is Generation 3. I've got 2 million each in Mexico, Texas, and Shanghai, and about 1 million in Berlin, roughly, for about 7 million. And then the other 3 million are the existing vehicles we already know about. Is there room for, some variation on that? Sure, it's just ballpark. Okay. David said 50% is a nice number. I think we forget. So it's 50% annual growth on average that Tesla's talked about, but it's not 50% every year. It's average over the years. Glenn Buckner says next generation vehicle factories won't finish building until end 2024, so the ramp will be in 2025. Yeah, I think that Giga Mexico will finish building for the end of 2024. I think Giga Texas and Giga Shanghai will. But these schedules get pushed back, and it's always dependent on whether there's going to be sufficient battery supply. Now, CATL has been ramping their battery supply of lithium iron phosphate. LG Chem has been ramping battery supply. Tesla's ramping battery supply. The next generation vehicle is probably going to be lithium iron phosphate predominantly. So that's going to rely on CATL producing a lot of LFP. As far as I know, Tesla is not planning to produce that. And then I did the same poll on Twitter. I did a similar poll. What will be the first year Tesla produces 10 million vehicles? And my theory is 2026. Between 2026 and 2027, you got more than half the votes. A lot of votes for 2028 or later, and almost no one who follows me is saying never. You look in the chat again. Jim Manley says budget about $500 for each Cybertruck tire, much more for airless and higher aggression tread. I don't think they're doing airless tires. Elon's been asked about airless tires before, and he thinks it's not. There's no reason to go that way. Any ideas on Wednesday numbers? I talked about it yeah, you missed it. We talked about it. I think the big number that we're going to be focused on is energy revenue and storage deployed on energy revenue. Can I comment on how likely the $7,500 Inflation Reduction Act discount goes away next year? I think it will go away for the standard range Model 3. which will be using Chinese lithium iron phosphate batteries. I don't think it's going to go away for Model Y. I don't think it's going to go away for uh, performance Model 3, and might go away for the long range Model 3. We don't know what they're making that with or where they're making the cells for that yet. 472 Water says, is Dojo going to be the same as Solar Roof? How do we know it isn't Solar Roof? Was supposed to be very successful. Well, Dojo is not a consumer product. Dojo is something that they're using internally. They've said they're in production. We've seen people from the team talking about it. They want it. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't go into production. But I think California will have another plant built and they will scrap Fremont in time. No, I think they're going to stick with what they got. Am I going to Japan to run Giga Osaka? I will certainly take advantage of being in Japan if we do see a Giga Osaka. And I should be clear, my numbers for 2026 do not include factories in India or Japan. If Tesla does go ahead and build a Gigafactory in India and a Gigafactory in Japan, then that number for 2026 could actually go higher. If they build the factories and ramp them quickly. All of which depends on ample battery supply. I don't think India is ready. I think Japan is ready, but it doesn't matter what I think. There's a lot of comments here. What do I think of the geopolitical risk with respect to China? I think the geopolitical risk with respect to China is a risk for anybody who makes anything, because China is a big supplier of all kinds of supply chain for all kinds of businesses everywhere. Mark Plot says, do I think the next Tesla factory be in India? I don't think so. But I've been cynical about India for a while. We've definitely seen hints that they're going to build something in India. The thing I saw was a 500,000 vehicle next-gen factory. There was an article in some Indian newspaper that Tesla's going to invest and build a vehicle factory that produces 500,000 vehicles. I don't think the Indian market can absorb that. I think at best, with a $20,000 plus vehicle, maybe they can get the price lower than that, but let's say it's a $20,000 plus vehicle. I think at best Tesla could sell 100,000 units here in India, maybe 200,000. You got 300,000 left over. What are you doing with those vehicles? Now, India does have some free trade agreements with some countries, but I just don't think India is the optimal place to produce the vehicle. So, did France really sour a deal with Tesla? I did not see that. Harry Chu says Mexico will not begin the production ramp until around Q4 of 2025. I don't think so. I think production starts at the end of 2024 and ramp is nearly complete in Q4 of 2025. I don't think Giga India and Giga Mexico will hit 5 million each Giga. I don't think that they're not going to produce enough volume. Okay, so let me just go back to my. I think there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. We'll come back to the chat in a minute. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we move over to the chat. I'm glad to see so many people here. And again, thank you to the moderators. And again, please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Links in the description below. The stainless steel water bottle, the new t-shirt. For those of you who are like diehard fans, Project Highland, that mother's not real. Thanks to my friend Diana for the design. Diva Diana on Twitter, or Diana Diva on Twitter. She asked me to make a shirt like this, so I made a shirt like this, and she ordered one, and I ordered one. This is tied to the woman on the airplane who was freaking out. And I'm sorry, I don't think Project Highland is real. We can talk about that at some point. But I wanted to talk about XAI. So this is related to Twitter. And I just interviewed Dr. Know-It-All. So if you haven't seen it yet, Dr. Know-It-All is another YouTube channel. John Gibbs is a professor who's got a lot of knowledge in the subject area of artificial intelligence. And he's a huge Tesla fan and Tesla owner and so on. So I did a Twitter space. XAI is Elon's new startup that's working on artificial intelligence, heading towards artificial general intelligence. I think applying some of the learning from Tesla about real-world artificial intelligence, hired people from OpenAI, hired people from Google, hired people from Microsoft, I think, brought in a bunch of people who are really into AI and said, hey, let's do it better. And they had a big presentation couple days ago, and I did this Twitter space yesterday with Jeff Lutz and Will Rubin, and you can check this out on my Twitter. I might post this conversation on the YouTube channel today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. Should be able to download it and edit it up a little bit, make it look good. So that this may be coming shortly. But one of the key things that happened in this space was related to two videos that happened with, and this is what I talked about with Dr. Know-It-All, Ashok Elaswamy, who's the director of the Tesla Autopilot team, and Phil Dwan, who's another top person on the Tesla Autopilot team. What they're doing with Tesla Vision and how they developed a model that they presented previously called the occupancy network. And that's the neural nets that are working in the cars now. And it appears they've come up with a new model they call a foundational model or a foundation model. And Elon mentioned it in the XAI Twitter space, not this Twitter space, but the XAI Twitter space, mentioned that it sounded like they have figured out Tesla Vision. They have figured out what they're doing. And it appears that it's this foundation model, and it sounds like that's going to be in cars before the end of this year. That doesn't mean that it will be the solution yet. It doesn't mean it's end-to-end, because end-to-end is something a little bit different, I think. But it means that we will be getting close to doing the final training to take FSD over the line. We'll see. John Bay, I don't think Proof Rock is in Mexico. I didn't mention this. I didn't plan to discuss this in the video, but since John Bay brought it up, the Boring Company, which is another Elon Musk startup that uses Tesla cars in tunnels, and may do other things in tunnels in the future, they are making more progress in Las Vegas, and they are deploying more tunnel boring machines, and they did some tweets about that. Dougie says, how many years until the voltage transformer shortage becomes a huge issue? That was part of the XAI space that Elon and Twitter did. The voltage so what Elon said is, right now there's a chip shortage for AI training. He thinks that the chip shortage is going to go away next year, and we're going to have a voltage transformer shortage, which I believe is that, you have enough energy generated, but getting the energy transmitted into the place where you have your AI training supercomputer clusters is going to be a challenge. And a year after that, the AI training supercomputer use of electricity is going to be so high that we may see a limit on. We may struggle to produce enough electricity to feed all these monsters. I think Optimus Bot is training or working in gigafactories. No, Elon has repeatedly said that Optimus is a long way from being useful. So there are people who are saying that Optimus is doing work in Tesla factories, and I don't find those reports credible. I think that there's a long way to go with Optimus. Do they have Optimus? Are they testing Optimus in the factory and having it carry boxes or something like that? Sure, maybe that's happening. Downbase says, if Boring Company TBM finds a fossil, will it have to stop? It's not going to notice a fossil. It's going to grow right through it. Jim says it's likely the Model 2, not the name they like, will be made in Mexico for export to Latin America. That's my view, Jim. It's not the Model 2, it's the Robotaxi, the next generation vehicle. I believe that the Mexico factory production will be exported to Latin America and maybe Europe. Well, and maybe they're not going to build a next gen factory in China yet. They're going to build it in, and maybe they're not going to build one in Europe, and maybe Giga Mexico is going to produce enough. I mean, there's this open question: is there enough battery supply for the volume of vehicles Tesla wants to produce? I don't know the answer to that. Could Tesla start building voltage transformers? They probably could. That doesn't seem like something that would be out of their scope of ability. SpaceX is building their own substations. Yeah, I know they're definitely building something in Brownsville, I think we saw. Elon's humor might even be called the Model Zero. I think they got to call it the Model Q, Tesla Q. That's the name that it should have, but we'll see. What are my thoughts on the competition? I think you just got my thoughts on the competition, particularly Hyundai and Polestar. Would Tesla ever purchase Lucid, given Sandy Monroe's comments on their motor tech? So let's start with, I think Hyundai makes pretty good EVs. I think that they're doing a pretty good job of making something that's close to Model 3. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 looks like it's close to Model 3. It's still lacking in a lot of ways. I saw somebody I know on Twitter who tweeted that they drove the Hyundai Ioniq and that Tesla is way better. I think Hyundai and Polestar don't get the tax credits in the same way, so that's a problem for them. And I don't see any reason for Tesla to purchase Lucid Motors. I think Lucid Motors may have some interesting technology, but manufacturing at scale, it does not appear to be technology that's easy to manufacture at scale because they're not manufacturing at scale. I don't know who Alcatraz is. What is that? Is that like a tennis match? Well, I think Tesla is the best stock to buy right now. Well, I just bought 200. Yeah, that's, by the way, full disclosure. I just bought 200 more shares of Tesla stock. I got divorced last year. We just sold the marital home in the past week. I got a pile of cash. I'm starting selling the marital home, and I bought 200 shares for about $6,000. So I obviously think Tesla's the best stock to buy right now. But that's for me. That's not financial advice for you. But I put my money where my mouth is. I just bought $60,000, $56,000 worth of Tesla stock. And it turns out to be really good timing since the Cybertruck reveal's happening. Yeah, I don't think there's any significant competition for Tesla. The other companies that are starting to make EVs are struggling to make them in volume. They're struggling to make them in a way that they sell them for more than it costs to build them. I just don't see it. Wouldn't it be great if Tesla decides to build a more efficient Gigafactory in California and sells the Fremont factory to GM Toyota? Yeah, no, I mean, look, I don't see Tesla building another factory in California. California's too difficult. Elon has commented on that. Will Elon exercise shares in Elon exercise options in 2023? I don't think so. I think Elon is doing okay on a cash basis. I think Twitter's doing okay. I don't think Twitter's profitable yet, but I don't think they're losing enough money to be a problem. There are reports that Ford dealers are having trouble selling the Lightning and Mustang EVs sitting on lots. Now, there's also reports that Volkswagen is having trouble selling their EVs. Mr. K says, hey, Warren, do you see Comma AI as the only real competitor FSD for the legacy automakers to partner with? I don't think Comma's far enough along. I think Comma's a solid 2 years or more behind Tesla. I do wonder if this foundation model is closer to what Comma's been doing. George Hotz has been saying that Tesla would come back to something that's more just feed in the photons and let it figure it out. So they're about to announce what I think. They should have bought options instead. I looked at options. I actually looked at options, and the pricing on options was really awful. Like, you wouldn't gain that much by buying options as compared to buying stock. What do you think of Tesla charging stations with solar contributing to the grid with excess energy? Will this help stabilize the grid? I think that Tesla will, over time, I don't think solar stabilizes the grid. I think Megapack stabilizes the grid. And I think Tesla's starting to move Megapacks out to their charging stations, and that will probably help stabilize the grid. Jim Manley says the lead time for high voltage power distribution transformers is years. Historically, speeding that up will take even more years. The shootings at transformers and electrical switching yards is bad. Shootings? I don't understand that term, but I have a feeling, since Elon mentioned it, that the Tesla team is aware of this problem, and Tesla's working on their own solution to having enough power distribution. Harry Chu says, how many Cybertrucks do you expect to be delivered in 2023? I think it might be as low as 1,000. I think Wall Street is saying less than 10,000. I don't think it matters. I don't think it's material. I don't think it's an important thing for the company to deliver a high volume of them. And I am roughly number 10,000. So do I think the Cybertruck will have any new and exciting features that have yet to be announced? Possibly. I don't know what they are, though. Do I think Cyberquad... Where'd that go? Cyberquad. You think Cyberquad is too dangerous to offer to the public? No, I think Cyberquad will be significantly safer than gasoline four-wheelers, because battery pack will be positioned low, and that will reduce the center of gravity, lower the center of gravity, so it'll be more stable. I think if they do, I'm not sure they're going to go ahead with Cybersquad, but if they go ahead with Cybersquad, my expectation is it will be safer because it will have a lower center of gravity. I'm not talking about the Cyberquad toy that I owned one and sold, and I have a video on my channel about it. I'm talking about the actual Cyberquad for adults. Would this could be a good time to sink in $25 million from lottery winnings into Tesla, considering stock could double or 4x in a few years? So if I won the lottery, I would sink a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it, into Tesla stock. You want to set aside some for paying taxes, and you want to set aside some for increasing your quality, your lifestyle, because all of a sudden you have this big pile of money. But I certainly would put more than half of it in Tesla stock. Probably more than 80 or 90% after taxes. Will the index rebalance this week affect Tesla stock short term? I haven't paid attention to that. Are Tesla and Amazon the best investments you made? How long have you been investing in? Good question. 472 Water asks, are Tesla and Amazon the best investments you made? How long have you been investing for before Tesla? What was it like during the tech bubble? So I've been investing for over 30 years, family portfolio and my own portfolio. Amazon and Tesla are probably about the best investments I made. Um, I bought Amazon in 2013. It went up about 13x. That was a pretty good. I mean, it's actually the worst investment decision I made because I didn't buy more. What happened was in 2013, I realized I understood. I thought I understood why Amazon was going to go up a lot, why it was like a game changer, why Amazon Prime was a game changer. I didn't understand Amazon Web Services. I didn't understand the company that well, but I made a small bet of like $5,000 or $10,000 on Amazon, and it went up 13x. And my big mistake was not buying more. So when I got into Tesla, when I started seeing the Tesla after the first SpaceX rocket landed safely, I started to recognize, hey, if they can do that, what can Tesla do? I started looking more into Tesla. And about 2 or 3 months after that landing, I think it was 2 months after that landing, I bought my first shares of Tesla stock. I kept researching, I kept buying. For Tesla, really, my portfolio was diversified. I had a lot of mutual funds or exchange traded funds. They were not as vulnerable to the tech bubble as tech stocks were. So I didn't really get hit hard. Some other good investments I made along the way, I would say Foundry Networks, F5 Networks, which are companies that made, I don't even know if they still exist. They're companies that made products that were competitive with Cisco systems in terms of internet hardware. I was convinced that internet hardware was the future. Whatever the future is going to be, they're going to need hardware. And I thought those stocks were underpriced. And I think F5 went up like 5x on what I paid for it. And I sold it. I think I actually did reasonably. I was just trying to rebalance my portfolio, but um, what do I think of EOS long-term storage? I have not looked at EOS. I've seen people talking about it, but I have not looked at it. Tesla is nearly cost break even and should show a profit by early 2020. Oh, Twitter is nearly cost break even and should show a profit by early 2024. I would say Linda Yaccarino so far is underperforming and generating new advertising. We'll see how that works. Uh, someone make rim attachments for Cybertruck water propulsion. I don't think so. Um, I'm just looking at the chat. I wanted to put Tesla charging stations on some land that I own. Would you know whom to contact? I know who I would contact, but I don't know how you would contact them. I believe that there's somewhere on the Tesla website you can apply to install charging stations on your land. And I had a friend who owns a jewelry store. It's like a mall of jewelry stores. And he applied and they didn't respond to him. I'm not sure how reliable that is. Cybertruck will outsell Lightning in 2023. Well, sure. Will it? I don't know. I think I'm not sure about that. I think the thing about Cybertruck that people aren't wrapping their heads around is, I think, this is my opinion. Aggressive, Warren, optimist, aggressive. I think Cybertruck will be the best-selling vehicle in the United States. It will not be the best-selling vehicle in the world. It will not outsell Model Y. It will not outsell the next generation vehicle. But in the United States, until next generation vehicle factory ramps, I think Cybertruck will be the best-selling vehicle in America. I think they will sell 1 million a year. Not in 2024, but maybe in 2025 or 2026. I think we're going to see them sell 1 million a year. And thank you, Mark. He's pumping the merch. ElonBits.com for the stainless steel water bottles, the t-shirt. This is the most popular t-shirt. My daughter helped design that. And of course, Project Highland, that mother's not real. I'm either going to be like massively wrong on Project Highland, or I'm going to be. No one will ever admit that I was right. This is the wonderful thing about my position on Project Highland. Those who don't know, Tesla Model 3 was the first mass market vehicle Tesla made. Started selling them in about 2018. It's now 5 years old. There's a bunch of people who are saying that Model 3 is dated. It needs a massive redesign. I think there may be a redesign coming in 2024. I don't think there's one coming now. And I think there's this cult-like obsession with Highland. So like anytime anybody sees any news about anything related to Model 3, then Project Highland is coming. And every time, multiple times, rumors have been quiet. Like Tesla Shanghai said, no, we're not shutting down for Highland, and they didn't shut down for Highland. And Rob Maurer showed that the production of Model 3 did not dip like everybody was predicting. Didn't seem to dawn on Rob that maybe Project Highland's not real. Remember, that mother's not real. ElonBits.com. Gordon Johnson says Cybertruck is a hoax and vaporware. Do I think I didn't watch Gordon Johnson on CNBC or CNBS, whatever we're calling it. I didn't watch it. I know he was on with I forget which analyst it was. Wasn't Pierre Farragut? I don't remember who it was. But I do a living in Cybertruck for 2 weeks video with the camper extension. So the plan is, just so you guys know, I'm moving to, for those who don't know, I'm planning to move to Japan in about 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks. I'm expecting my Cybertruck delivery will be sometime after, and that's coming back in November. I don't think my Cybertruck will be ready by November. I should be on a long-term visa by sometime in 2024. And when my Cybertruck is ready for delivery, my plan is roughly to fly back to the US, buy the Cybertruck, spend maybe a week or two in it, drive it around, make some videos about it. No camper extension. I'll just live out of the vehicle itself, travel around the country. And then one theory is I sell it. The other theory is I ship it to Japan. May depend a little bit on what happens with Tesla stock. If Tesla stock 2x's by the time I get my Cybertruck, I'm already fairly wealthy, but I'll be double as wealthy as I am. It may get to a point where I decide I can afford to be really dumb and bring a Cybertruck to Japan. Cost me about $3,000 to ship. It'll cost, I have no idea how much it's going to cost in Japan. I'll probably have to get a Japanese driver's license, have to get a parking spot. It's not necessarily a wise cost of living move, but it'd be really cool. And if I got it in Japan and I had it in Japan, then at some point when I sell it, I could probably sell it for more in Japan than I could sell it here because it'll be really, really rare. And of course, Japanese girls will love a Cybertruck, right? I'm not sure that's actually true. Gordon Johnson, the movie, that sounds like a good idea. Cybertruck in 2023 should be exclusively sold to employees and a handful of influencers. I don't think they work that way. They will sell to employees. There will be a few influencers who'll get it, but it'll probably be mostly employees and board members and other, top people. Will Cybertruck be a chick magnet, Will Nurse asks. I think it will attract some women. I don't know how, I think it depends on the woman. New t-shirt, get less dumb. I hope the early VIN Cybertrucks don't have really bad problems. I think there will be. I think the very beginning Cybertrucks will be good. Elon has said the very beginning of the ramp, the vehicles are really good because they're really careful. Then there's a phase where they're a little less careful, and then they get really into rhythm and things go well. So there's a spot where it may be a problem. Cybertruck is like a hairpiece for men. Yeah, okay. How much do I think Cybertruck will cost? Oh, that's a beautiful question. I don't think anybody knows how much Cybertruck's going to cost. Mark Plot says 18-year-old Japanese girls will like the Cybertruck. That's a little younger than my target age. Just to be clear, I'm not gunning for 18. I think 18 might be a little bit young. I'll take 20s. I think 18's a little too young. Do you think they should stop making Model X and S and then reintroduce them with a refresh after they drop Cybertruck, Model 2, and Roadster? I think that Model X, I think Model S is fine the way it is. You could make some improvements, but Model S is basically the most amazing sedan in the world. Model X is fantastic, but it's so expensive to build. I would love to see Tesla scrap the current Model X, build a larger version of Model Y, basically, without the Falcon Wing doors, without the power doors, make it more luxurious, probably keep the air suspension, but if they can get a Model X under $80,000, I think they triple or more sales. Right now, Model X is selling for about $100,000, and it doesn't really accelerate the transition to sustainable energy because it uses a lot of batteries. But get one with like a 90 kilowatt hour battery pack, and instead of a 72 kilowatt hour, I think it's an 82 kilowatt hour pack in the existing Model Y. So get one with like a 94 kilowatt hour pack, get it up to like 350 miles of range or 360 miles of range, but have it much less expensive to build, a much better design, and I think you could sell it for under $80,000, get the $7,500 tax credit, and sell them like crazy. Well, camping with those Korean camper girls on YouTube, I know nothing about that. Tesla will love that free advertising of Cybertruck in Japan if you ship it. Maybe Tesla will ship it for you. They're not shipping it for me. What do I think of the white Cybertruck that was spotted? I think wraps are dumb for Cybertruck. I think the stainless steel look is the best look for Cybertruck. But if you get a Cybertruck and you want to spend your money on a wrap, go for it. Have fun with it. What roads smaller than their toll roads in Japan could a Cybertruck fit on? I was in Tokyo, and I saw a Cadillac Escalade. Cybertruck's not bigger than a Cadillac Escalade. It'll fit on most roads in Japan. What do I think about Tesla earnings on Wednesday? I already talked about that earlier. I think the big thing in Tesla earnings, let me pull this up. The biggest thing in Tesla earnings is going to be the annual vehicle capacity. This will be on page 7 of the slide deck. And then the other big thing is going to be energy storage and energy generation and storage revenue. I expect this number here to jump over 2 billion. It's also going to be really interesting to see how much storage deployed jumps. Will storage deployed jump? Will it go over 5 gigawatt hours? Will it go over 6 gigawatt hours? This is a big number to watch, and this is a big number to watch. At some point, as energy storage deployed goes up, energy revenue has to go up commensurate with it. So you can't have energy storage revenue, energy storage deployed growing 360% a year, and have energy generation and storage revenue only growing 448% a year. At some point, this has to jump. So that's something I think is really important. That people aren't talking about. I don't care about auto gross margins. I don't care about earnings per share. They'll be what they'll be. What would be the price of Tesla stock after Q2 earnings? I don't make short-term stock price predictions. I'm not that guy. How many people can you smuggle over the border in the back of a Cybertruck with the tonneau cover down? I think it depends on whether you're crossing the border on land or you drive to the edge. You drive from the beach you go to Starbase. You can drive about 2 miles south on the beach, and you can see Mexico and the mouth of the Rio Grande right there. So I suppose if you drove a Cybertruck to the beach in Mexico and then drove in the water to cross it's a fairly short haul to get across to get to the beach there. That might be the most efficient way to do it, but that's not recommended. That's not financial advice. Do I own any Tesla Leaps? I own $350 strike price Tesla Leaps for June of 2024 that I bought in November of 2022. They are up substantially. I will probably... I was actually thinking, how am I going to afford to buy the Cybertruck when it becomes delivered? And I think I'll be able to sell my options optimistically for enough to buy the Cybertruck. I don't have that many, but if the stock price goes up enough, I'll be able to sell them for about $100,000 and buy Cybertruck. You don't need to smuggle people across the border. That's true. Let's go. Brandon holds the door open for them. That is true. The Model X is a masterpiece of a vehicle. I hope it's too unimportant for them to stop before they decide to delete it. I just think that it's had its run. Model X has had its run. I have a Model X. I love it. It's a wonderful vehicle, but it's had its run. And if you're going to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, you can make a larger SUV that's a really comfortable 7-passenger SUV that's more efficient than the current Model X, that costs less to build than the current Model X, that uses less batteries than the Model X. You can make in larger volume, and you can sell it in larger volume, and that's going to accelerate the transition better than a cute vehicle that's got funky doors and power and all these other cute features. When do I think Starlink will IPO? It's possible next year. I don't know. Elon was very touchy about not answering that question before, and I thought that was unusual. What will cost of goods sold on Cybertruck be this year? Cost of goods sold will be high. It'll be negative margin this year. But it won't matter a lot because it's not a high volume. It would be strange and cool if Cybertruck was wrapped in transparent cloak like people were doing the other. I don't think that's happening. Any idea when Giga Mexico breaks ground? I'm guessing Giga Mexico breaks ground in the next month or two, but that's a guess. I don't know that I would have chosen Mexico, but I think the Tesla team knows more than I do. Do I think Tesla dips when Starlink IPOs? No. No, I think Tesla goes up when Starlink IPOs. I think when there's good news from SpaceX, it tends to boost Tesla stock. Model X just draws attention to the brand every time the bird doors open. They do. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. Let me do a quick summary of. I wanted to cover this. This is the most There was a poll. I did a poll. What's the most important? Sorry, what will energy storage any energy generation and storage revenue for Q1 be? For Q2 be? And it was 1.53 billion. It was 1.53 billion right here in Q1. I think it's going to go over 2 billion. But majority of people thought it was going to be under 2 billion. So I disagree with y'all. So that's a big thing. And then this is going to be the big thing to watch for in the earnings report. Should be page 7. It's usually on page 7 of the report. We should see the robotaxi vehicle now say Mexico. There should be a Mexico line with robotaxi. I don't think we're going to see others change. Will we see Texas in development for robotaxi? I don't know. Will the number change for Texas Model Y and for Berlin Model Y? Will Shanghai's number change? I don't think. I think these two numbers might change. They might go up. Yeah, Tesla van. Somebody's mentioning Tesla van. I do think that we're going to see a van based on the Cybertruck platform, but probably not for at least a year. Starlink won't IPO until 2.0 satellites are launched on starships. I don't think you're wrong, but I'm not sure you're right, Jim. I think that SpaceX is doing really well. I think they've got a fairly substantial amount of revenue coming in for Starlink. I'm not sure how long they wait at this point. And I do think like it's going to be interesting to see. Like I think the longer they wait, the higher the price point will be for the IPO. So I think there's an advantage in waiting and getting a higher demand. And also maybe you don't want to do it in the middle of a down economy. I think they can wait and be patient and wait for the up economy. And I do a debate on Twitter with Yaman on Project Highland. I think I already have done a debate with Yaman. I think we have a standing bet. I've debated so many people on Twitter about Project Highland, it's ridiculous. My expectation for a Starlink IPO is that it'll IPO at an effective market cap of about $100 billion. I think it might be higher than that, but I think the eventual market cap of Starlink rises to over $1 trillion. We know how many subscribers Starlink has. I think it's over 1 million. Reasonable expectation for Mexico construction is 18 months from groundbreaking. Tesla doesn't do things in a reasonable manner. They're called falcon wing doors, Jim Manley. Falcon wing doors because they articulate a little bit more than gull wing doors. The gull wing doors just go out like this. Tesla doors can adjust. Energy margins, that's anybody's guess. I think we've been around 10%. I think eventually it'll get to 25% or more. But right now, I don't think we're going to see a big jump in energy margins. I mean, we might see a slight increase, but it's not going to be that much. Robert Hirsch asks, any other cyber vehicles other than the van? I'm not sure the van will be a cyber van or it'll just be on the cyber platform. In other words, I don't know if it's going to have a stainless steel exterior. But no, I don't think there's... I asked Franz von Holzhausen about that, and he did not think that it was a good fit for other vehicles. Jim Whitehead says there was a drone spy shot that looked like Tesla was experimenting with a van or something possible for the boring tunnels. That was supposedly a boring company van, and it didn't even have wheels. I don't think that was anything. That's the kind of rumor stuff that doesn't really add value to me. Starlink will not be anywhere near profitable until Starship launches are going up regularly. I don't think that's the case. I think there's how much they're investing in launching the platform. It depends on how you measure profitability. They might not be cash flow positive, but they might be profitable on a bookkeeping basis. Chris Richards says, is 20 million sales by 2030 a tad over optimistic? This would mean at least 13 gigafactories fully ramped, assuming an average of 1.5 million output per factory. 8 new gigas by 2030 looks tough to do. I think we're going to see 4 new gigafactories for the next generation vehicle soon, like within the next 2 years. And I think that 3 of them are going to produce 2 million vehicles a year. 1 of them will produce less. Then we see smaller gigafactories in maybe India and Japan. And then I think we're going to see, I think the next thing is going to be, and we'll see van or whatever, but I think we're actually going to see a smaller vehicle sometime around 2027 that will also be a very high volume vehicle, something smaller than a Corolla. Honda Fit sized or less. Yeah, let me just close out by saying, please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. This Tesla Man t-shirt is the most popular t-shirt. Check out the stainless steel water bottles at elonbits.com. Check out, of course, the Project Highland, That Mother's Not Real shirt. Brand new shirt. Just got it in the mail yesterday. Thanks to the moderators. Please check out my other videos. Please support me on the Locals platform. In 5 minutes, I'm going to be live on the Locals platform, warrenredlick.locals.com. Please support me there as a YouTube channel member, on Patreon, or as a Twitter subscriber. Probably going to be doing more on Twitter over time, so please consider subscribing to me on Twitter. And I'll probably be putting more videos on Twitter as well. There's a lot happening on Twitter. Highly recommend you. If you're not involved in Twitter yet, get involved with Twitter. Thanks very much, everybody, so much. Again, elonbits.com for the merch. And thanks all. Thanks to the moderators in particular. Mark, Jim. All right, bye, everybody. WarrenRedlick.locals.com for the next live stream. It's in the chat.